A very good evening. Hello to everyone who's joining with us live through Facebook right now. And today I welcome all of you to the Flip Side webinar series, another episode, another great episode, I would say, organized by Pick Up Books Sri Lanka. And introducing myself, my name is Ashin Sani Veerasinghe, and I'll be the host as usual. Now, to talk a little bit about Pick a Book, I would like to say, a lot of people think that Pick a Book is a platform for avid readers. I would say, oh no, it's a platform for even the ones who are very lazy and bored to read books. I would put myself in that box because I'm such person. Whenever I want to know about a book, I would just come to Pick a Book platform and just see, who has actually spoken about it. And since I have done a lot of sessions, I would just come and click and watch the episodes and get some knowledge or some idea about the book I would prefer reading. Or if you want to get an idea about any book, this is a place you have to come. With that, I would like to also say that Pick a Book, through such episodes and activities, encourages the reading habit by getting all participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly, and present a summary, which also helps to hone his or her public speaking, communication, and presentation skills. So, is it just reading? Oh no, again. It's all about communication, public speaking, sharing, and being able to present the book as well. By doing this, Pick a Book not only inculcates a habit of reading, but also helps to impart a wealth of knowledge. The objective of the Flip Side corporate edition is to get the individual opinions and perspectives and also to share lessons from outstanding books. When talking about outstanding books, I'm sure you're already aware about the two books we will be sharing today. That is, we'll have a little bit of a twist between the two books. They come from two different backgrounds. Let's see whether we'll be able to mix and match the conversation as well. Let me now introduce the two books to you. The very first book, I would say one book, is How to Be A Bawse, A Guide to Conquering Life by Lilly Singh. We all know her as a YouTuber, but she is also an author now. So we'll see what the book is all about. Introducing you the second book, Life Without Limits, An Inspiration for a Ridiculously Good Life by Nick Vujicic. Now, let's see what these books are about. I'm not the one who's going to talk about these books. We have two presenters to present these books. Now, first of all, let me introduce the very first guest I have today, Nadia Scheherazade. She is from Pick a Book Akbar Corporate Club. And let me introduce her officially. She's coming from a legal and branding and marketing background, and she has completed her LLB degree and master's in commercial law. She says it is very important to be ambitious and self-driven in whatever you do. And she also says the need and ability to look into different aspects and insights from every individual perspective is very important in order to have a successful and thriving business or brand development. I think this is a wonderful introduction coming in. And she also believes passion, empathy, kindness, and humor goes a long way in life. And apparently, a lot of people think that she's a very serious person when they meet her for the first time, but she says she's a very jovial, energetic, and bubbly personality. And her hobbies are cooking, reading, and exercising. A very good evening to you, Nadia.
Hi, Ashi. Thank you so much for that introduction.
That's actually a very I was actually reading through the intros and I just realized that's actually a different perspective of intros putting into the table. So thanks so much. So Nadia will be taking you through the book How to Be a Bawse. And next, let me introduce the next guest, Amila Chandra Siri. He's from Pick a Book SDB Corporate Club. In introducing him, he has completed his BSc in Computer Studies from University of Sunderland, UK, MBA from University of Cardiff, UK, and he's a certified digital marketing professional. And talking a little bit about his professional background, he has worked at few reputed organizations related to aviation and finance. His specialized areas are e-commerce, digital marketing, and digital banking. He is currently working at SDB Bank Digital Banking Unit as a digital banking professional. And his hobbies are watching sports, engaging social media activities, and reading books. His life quote, let me tell you, Do not try to fix whatever comes in your life. Fix yourself in such a way that whatever comes, you will be fine. This is from Sadhguru. So, very good evening to you, Amila. How have you been?
Very good evening. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm amazed. I mean, I'm inspired by the life quote you use. I think I might also start using this. I think that's pretty much, related to all of us, right, Nadia?
Yeah.
Okay, so Amila will be taking us through the book Life Without Limits. Um, Without further ado, let me get into the conversation straight away. So we'll be taking these two books parallelly, simultaneously, like we always do. So I'll start off with Nadia. Nadia, let us know. This cover of the book is pretty interesting. It gives me the look of a magazine, the magazine vibe. And we also know Lilly Singh is a YouTuber. Tell us a little bit about the book and the author, Lilly Singh.
Okay, so for those who actually who are not familiar with who Lilly Singh is, she is actually known for creating and uplifting comedic videos on YouTube. In 2010, she had a channel called Superwoman, to which my sister and I we grew up watching that show on YouTube. Um, and amongst the other things, she has a psychology degree. She's an activist for gender equality, and now she's an author. So I read this book when I was much younger, actually, when it came out in 2017. And moving forward into the session, you will actually understand why I chose this book. She has been through a lot of challenges. And she has given the book actually speaks about a lot of inspirational advice. And I think it could be applicable to all age groups and all gender.
That's interesting. Let's have a look at the book enough further to our conversation. I would like to move into Amila to talk about the book as well. Tell us a little bit about the author, Nick. He's a renowned character. We all know. I think growing up, we've all been taught his story. If he can do it, why can't you? So tell us a little bit about the author and the book, and any particular reason that you chose this book.
Yeah, definitely. The book is Life Without Limits. It's one of the best-selling book. It's an autobiography written by Nick. Autobiography means like author write about himself. Nick was born with the syndrome called tetra amelia syndrome. Hope I pronounce it correctly. It's a rare disorder, which means absence of all four limbs by birth. There's no specific medical reason found yet. So he struggled so much during his childhood due to the disability, and he was not able to do his day-to-day work. Sometimes he tries to commit suicide as well. But he changed the way he thinks about his life very positively. We will discuss it later, how it happened. Afterwards, he started progressing towards the success. He earned his degree, started on non-profit organization, and started helping others as well. Also, he became successful author of few books, became famous YouTuber. Importantly, he became one of the most popular motivational speaker. He's among the top 10 motivational speakers today. He speaks to corporate audience, people who are suffering from physical limitations, psychological barriers. Already he has addressed over 3 million people over 44 countries. Also, he's happy and happily married and having kids. There are two parts of the books. Part 2 is Love Without Limits. So book we are discussing today, his life journey, how much he struggled and how he transformed himself. To answer why I like this book, as you know, we have many complaints in our life. Certain things does not go our way. Things does not go as we expected. So basically, we are worried and frustrated for about minor things. Do you agree, Shri?
That's right. That's right.
So then how about this guy who was born without limbs, does not complain or curse anyone? He has used kind of a disability as a success factor. All importantly, he's happy with things that he got, and he always having a beautiful smile on his face. When I saw him first time, I felt sorry about him. But once I read the book, actually, I felt sorry about myself. So he can do many things without limbs where some people can't do with limbs. So he has a small part of his uh, leg. He call it chicken legs. So he used that to
Yeah.
write and operate certain instrument. So he's like grateful of having and not worrying about not having the limbs. The book helped me to change about how I think about my life. I really understand about the empathy. I hope everyone who joined this session will have some great learnings for their entire life.
That's amazing. I think we laid the foundation for both the books. And one thing that now sticks in my mind is what Amila said. Before you read the book, you felt sorry for him because of his story. But when you read the book, you felt sorry for yourself. I think we all should be sorry for ourselves because we are people who keep, complaining, especially being Sri Lankans. Now, moving on. I would like to get into the conversation with Nadia once again to talk about now this term bows. Okay. Um, in one of the interviews, I've heard Lilly saying, why does it call bows and not boss? Like when you say BOSS boss, you hear the woman or at the workplace, the boss at the workplace. But when you hear the word this, she has brought in the word bows to say women in general who's conquering life. So,
That's right.
what does the term bows actually mean, and how has she placed this word, Nadia? I'm sure we're all interested to know.
How it's actually a very interesting question. And actually, how it came about is also quite interesting. So, before I get into the actual meaning of the term, Bawse, I will give you a brief history of the author, first of all, which led her to using this term in the future. So Lilly Singh was an author who was actually fighting depression. Yeah, can you believe it? Nobody can believe that, right? Looking at her. So to come out of this depression, she actually started her YouTube videos in 2010. And she had been through a lot of challenges. And she actually quotes that she was going through some of the darkest times in her life. And the smallest thing, right, could flip a switch in her brain and change her day from being horrible to not that bad. So everyone has goals, Ashi. They want to accomplish, whether it's at work, whether it's your personal goals, whether it's passing an exam, or whether it's trying to make ends meet, right? Everybody wants to survive or has to survive in this world. So this book is all about flipping that switch in your mind, mastering your mind, and actually achieving those goals somehow. So therefore, the term boss, right, is actually defined as somebody who actually exceeds both in personal and professional careers. All right, someone who exudes confidence, turns heads, gets hurt efficiently by doing so as well, because the world is tough out there, right? You have to be a tough cookie.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Right, and who can efficiently communicate, and who hustles relentlessly. So it requires an unfathomable amount of dedication and hustle, because moving towards success, there are no tricks, there is no easy way, there are no quick elevators. It's just straight up hustle. So that's how the terminology bows came into play. It's actually from very humble beginnings, because she went through a lot, and coming from Asian, Indian backgrounds, and after having a psychology degree as well, you don't want to do that in your life. Imagine telling that to your parents. Probably thought that you were crazy.
Yeah.
To sit in front of the camera and make money in terms of motivating people, that is, not in other ways.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, going back to those times when she actually started, yeah, I mean, that's not a usual thing. But these days, yeah, of course, everybody would agree to that. But pretty interesting, pretty interesting. Going into Amila to talk about life without limits. And as we know, now you also explained the fact that Nick was born with tetraamelia syndrome. what kind of challenges he has faced during the early stage of his life, being born as such, and how did he really overcome? Was there any turning point for him? You mentioned at certain points that anyway, he's a normal person who had suicidal thoughts and a lot of ups and downs. Take us through this a little bit, Amita.
Yeah, let me start with the birth story. And
Sure.
her mother was taken to the hospital. She didn't know that she was trying to give the birth for disabled child, right? So when she was in the operation theater, so once she gave the birth, she realized that something is wrong. So she asked from the doctors and nurses, is everything is okay? But nobody said anything. Then later she realized that she has given the birth for the disabled child, because she knew that his child does not have limbs. So after hearing that, she was got shocked. She did not even want to look at him, didn't want to feed him. So by birth, even Nick was rejected by her mother. So then what happened was that gradually their parents started accepting him. They were religious people, so they were started accepting him. So then he encouraged Nick to become a grow as the usual child. And what happened was, usually when Nick was very young, so he didn't have limbs, so cannot get up. How he tried to get up was he was knocking his head against the wall, then only he tries to get up. So he struggled so much during his childhood. Then what happened was, basically uh, kid like a Nick, so they have to admit him to the children who goes to the disabled school. But what happened was, their parents, they tried to admit him to the usual school, because parents didn't want to feel Nick that he's disabled. So it worked positive way and the negative way. What happened was, Nick is the first child, he was born in Australia, first child get into the usual school with so much of disability. So when he got into the school, he tried to move with the usual child. So the negative part is, his friends, his co-students, he's tried to make joke out of him. So they called him as an alien. So he hurt so much. So when he grew up gradually, he knew that he's different from the other child. He does not have limbs. So he was helpless, rejected. He felt like, I'm a burden for others. Then at the age of 10, he decided to commit suicide. How he tried to do is, he just tried to drown himself in the bathtub. So when you don't have the limbs, even you cannot commit suicide easily. So what happened was, so he was having a bath, so he went to the bathtub. So once he drowned himself to commit suicide, he just visualized his death. So he was virtually in his funeral. He saw his parents were crying, thinking that we were not able to protect Nick. So that particular thought, like for a moment, he decided to not to commit suicide. The reason is their parents loved him so much. So it gives a message: if you love your child irrespectively without any condition, so there's a high possibility so for them not to do any wrong thing. That particular thought, so he decided to not to commit himself. Then later what happened was, he read an article which was published in the newspaper. One person has met with an accident. This person was disabled for entire life, so he couldn't move from his bed, right? So Nick tried to compare himself with that particular person. That person cannot move for entire life, he cannot do anything. But when compared to him, Nick is like, he was much more active person, because he was able to move and he could do most of the things by himself. So he tried to realize that there are people like who are suffering more than him. So he felt kind of a positivity. He brought some kind of a positivity to him. So it's one of the turning point of his life. So he thought that he's kind of a lucky person. So other one is, he got an opportunity to speak in his school in front of the crowd. So Nick was not a public speaker, so he was continuously refusing that. But finally, he decided to give it a try. So he went on in front of the students, and he said about his life, how much he struggled to day-to-day life. The all who were in the audience felt uh, sorry about him. So suddenly he became a hero. So people considered him as a hero. Then what happened was, so most of the people invited him to deliver speech, like in the clubs and society, the schools. So
Yeah.
Nick gradually turned out to be a motivational speaker. So other turning point of his life, one day he was making a speech in the church. He heard someone is calling his name. So he looked around. He saw one person was lifting a small child, around 2 year child. So once he saw that, he got shocked because that particular boy also with the same syndrome, he did not have the limbs. So after seeing that, he got shocked. So after that, Nick invited their family to the Nick's house. Then their what do you call, their parents help their families to give some advices how to adopt this child, etc. So then finally what happened was Nick and Daniel became two good friends. Then one day Daniel told to Nick, one day I just want to be like you. That particular moment changed Nick because he realized that there's some value of his life. So he decided to help others. And I think basically he found a purpose in his life.
Well, that's a very interesting story, and I should say you're also a very good storyteller, Amina, putting everything in sequence. And one major thing that got my mind is that a message for the parents. When you love your kids unconditionally, and when you make them feel that they're loved, they don't have any reason to harm themselves or do any wrong. That's a wake up call. So that goes out to all parents who are watching. And the other thing is, when Daniel said that, I think it's all about us appreciating one another, right? Letting them know how important they are and how loved they are. That's something. I think, again, coming into Sri Lanka, I don't think we're very good at expressing feelings.
Yes, yes.
We sometimes, we all complain about strict parents, or not expressing feelings, but these are little things that takes a long way and saves lives. From that, let's move into Lilly Singh once again to Nadia. Nadia, I would like to ask, now we also know Lilly Singh through YouTube, and she's someone who applies a lot of humor to help her get out of uncomfortable or tough situations in life. Has she shared some of her stories in the book, and what are a few takeaways that you could share with us today?
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, actually, the thing is, right? All of us are messed up in some way, right? Nobody's perfect. But wait, I don't want to offend anybody out there. I'm pretty sure there are people who are 100% perfect, so that's good.
No, I think the term is not really messed up. Is not the term, probably to say not everyone's not perfect. I think let's put it
Not perfect. So yeah, so in her book she says that, and the book is actually divided into um, four parts, right? And it's very interestingly written. So there are four themes to it. It says master your mind, because we have to understand that she's fighting depression in this book, and she's telling us how to, or rather, how to come out of it, to be the best version of yourself in this world, right? The second part is hustle harder, and third is make heads turn. And fourth is, well, be a unicorn. You'll understand what I'm talking about moving more towards the session. So all of this is, which is like very interestingly written, and in a very brief nutshell, I will expose you to a few highlighted takeaways. So in the first segment of the book, she says, hustle hard and forget about FOMO. So that's fear of missing out. So, for example, if you have a meeting on Monday, you can't go. I mean, going for a party on Sunday and partying till 4 a.m. in the morning, you're not going to be able to show the figures and present that presentation to the boss.
We've done
right?
that.
So, yeah.
I'm sure we've all done that. Okay, sorry. All right.
And same with the exams. If you have like a very important exam, you can't be out there partying, because you need to pass the exam so that you'll pass your
Says who,
college. And
Nadia? Says who?
I mean, this is for the younger audience, but yeah, we've all done it. But
Yeah, this is the good advice part coming out.
yeah, the good
But
advice. But you
I
cracked the you cracked the ice right there. So I'm not gonna say.
all right, moving forward.
Right. And then also, as humans, it's actually natural for us while climbing the ladder of personal and professional success, we tend to carry the most heaviest thing, which is your pride and ego. So she says this is in relevance to the chapter, the second half of the theme. She's saying, don't do that, because you can lose it. You whatever you have earned, you can lose it just like that. And you have to be humble while climbing up the ladder, whatever you do, whether it's in your social life or professional life. And moving on to part three, it's like she says, this was, again, we have to think why she's actually saying all of this, because again, she was going through depression, she was very suicidal, um, just going through some really dark period in her life. And she says, we are all perfect in, we all have a great combination of strengths and weaknesses in terms of physicality, how we look, how we talk, etc. We have to own those traits, because that's what makes you awesome and that's what makes you who you are. So instead of looking at the mirror and saying, oh my God, you know what, I can't do this because I am not the perfect size, or I can't do this because I'm not,
Good enough.
people are not going to like, yeah, people are
Yeah.
not going to like my voice when talking. That happens to almost everybody. I mean, it happens to me also. I'm not perfect. I can easily say that, I'm a hot mess. So yeah. So she says, you have to own it, even if you don't have some people may not have a nice voice, but they have the confidence to go out there and talk in front of people. So it's basically owning your strengths and weaknesses. And then the last part of the book, it says, that's the theme, be a unicorn. And she actually highlights niceness. And she quotes Dwayne Rock the Johnson. Sorry, Dwayne Rock Johnson.
Okay.
Right. And he said, when he was accepting his Golden Globe Awards, he said, it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. It's
It's
nice to
nice
be
to be
important.
important. It's important to be nice. That's amazing.
So he says that, and then she complements that quote saying that stick to the values you grew up with, be nice, stick to the values you actually grew up with. The world will make it very difficult for you to adhere to those values, but do it anyway. Just be nice, be a nice human. So
That's
that's
amazing.
a that's a nutshell of
Yeah.
the that's
I'm
basically
sure
the
if
book.
we had more time, we could go on and on about it. But due to time constraint, we're trying to get both the stories fitting to the episode. So
That's right.
I'm trying to build a connection here. I think even though these two books are in two different paths, but it
Mhm.
gives out a lot of inspiration in different ways. That is the ability to do being able to do something. For example, Nick was born with tetraamelia syndrome, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean whether you are physically complete or mentally complete. Not everyone's complete in all ways. Just like we say, not everyone's perfect. For example, Lilly Singh, physically complete, but has gone through depression in a
That's
way
right.
that nobody would have noticed. She is incomplete. She's not perfect. And coming into Nick, physically incomplete, but mentally, he
Perfect.
somehow, even
Yeah.
though he went through a lot of ups and downs, he came to a position, right? That's why we're talking about him today. I think this is a great story we are building today.
Yeah.
And while I draw that connection, I would like to move into Amila as well to talk about what are some of the interesting stories and incidents of this book, Captain?
Yeah. Uh, Actually, after Nick completing his higher studies, he did his degree in accountancy, his parents want him to become an accountant. So he refuses to do a usual job. So he wanted to become a motivational speaker. So what happens is like he have a bit of a background. So he goes to certain organizations and requests for opportunities, but he gets opportunities rarely. So initial opportunity, whatever he received, he failed miserably. So what Nick said was like basically certain times when he made the speech, he felt like he was like clown because he couldn't do the motivational speech properly. He felt like giving it up. So once again, Nick had this quality where he kept on trying. So somehow he was trying to build. So he wanted to be a motivational speaker, so he utilized his opportunities. Gradually, he became kind of a famous motivational speaker and the YouTuber. So then he started getting certain opportunities to visit overseas as well. So let me tell a few stories how he self-motivated himself.
Yeah.
So in once he get an opportunity to travel some other country. So he goes to the airport. So he has very limited time. His flight get delayed. So he sees the people who are at the airport, they are shouting, they're scolding the airport staff. So he just start thinking about the incident. This is something beyond, our control. So maybe this is a good thing that rather than flight is getting crashed. So he thinks for things that beyond our control, we should not worry. So most of the time, we control for things beyond our control. We use a lot of our energy. So Nick start thinking that way. So he writes a lot of stories about that matter in this book. So he started not worrying about things beyond his control. Then once he get an opportunity to go visit Mumbai. So he was born in Australia. So very first time he goes to Mumbai. So if you have watched movie like Slumdog Millionaire, you can imagine situation over there. So he sees the people, so they don't have food, place to stay, no medicine, a lot of diseases. So Nick once again compare his life with these people who are in the slum. So Nick feel he's like much lucky. His life is much luxury. So he start thinking positively about him. So then what he does is like he thinks there are so much of people, the poor people. So he builds certain non NGOs, uh, organizations to help them out. So another thing, once he visit the city of Cairo, so it's basically called city of garbage. The thing is like entire country, the garbage is,
Yeah.
collected and brought here for the recycling purposes. The people are like virtually living in the on the garbage. So what happens is Nick goes there, though he distributes certain toys to the children. So he gives a football for the certain children. Those children they started playing on the garbage, right? So he sees children they are enjoying that particular moment. So they have no worries, no fears, nothing. So they are just playing with the toy that they received. So Nick
Yeah.
thinks that the little things that we have, so we can enjoy because we are looking for more things. These children, they don't have anything, but they just received a football. So they are just starting playing on the uh, garbage itself. So Nick thinks like started enjoying the moment. So likewise, with his experience, Nick, more self-motivate himself, and he write lot of stories in the book as well.
Very interesting. I think I every answer both of you give has a new takeaway,
Yeah.
new advice for all of us. I think that's pretty amazing. Today's conversation I'm already enjoying. I'm sure everyone who's watching us are also enjoying. And if you are, please comment and let us know your feedback. And if you have read these two books, let us know what your takeaway out of these. Even one book, let us know what you have taken away out of the book. Thank you. With that, I would move into Nadia.
Yeah.
Now, Lilly Singh was initially never successful, and you mentioned that. And in her
Yeah.
career as a YouTuber, influencer, what really kept her motivated and inspired to get to where she is now in her life and career?
Oh yeah, that's actually quite interesting, and I was actually excited to share that with you. So again, when it comes to success, Ashi, there are no fairy tales. It's just there are no shortcuts. You just need to find your way to keep going and keep yourself motivated and inspired,
Yeah.
regardless of whatever profession that you're doing, right? So she gives a few pointers, and she says schedule inspiration. If you're having a really tough week at office, right, and you're, let's say, a singer or an actor, right, you schedule a day, maybe next week, Wednesday, and you schedule that day to find your inspiration. Perhaps read a book, watch a movie, something that will help you get ideas. You have to prioritize that. If you don't prioritize that, you'll never find inspiration. So that's how she did it. So to get ideas for her videos and all, she used to somehow watch movies. It was like, okay, it's an appointment, it's like, okay, I have to accomplish this. If I don't accomplish this, I'm going to be a failure. That kind of like mentality. Second thing is, she says that we are all investments, right? So focus on your skills that you're really good at, right? So invest in those skills so you can make it better and be better with those skills in the future for yourself. So if you're a good public speaker, practice talking, meeting people, etc., etc. And then third, she goes on to talk about confidence. Did you know that Lilly Singh did not have any confidence when she was starting off? She was a complete introvert. Can't say that, right? So this is how she actually overcame that fear. So she says, to be confident, you have to be present in the moment, and that presence is very important, right? So what she used to do is, she used to basically talk to herself. She used to talk to herself every day. She would look into the mirror and talk to herself like she was the best human being out there, right? And it worked. And she says, by doing this, it actually helps you envision yourself accomplishing certain goals in life. So if you go to the mirror, I've seen a lot of people who have like lost weight. So they go talk to themselves in the mirror and it's like, okay, you know what, today I'm gonna lose whatever 20 pounds or whatever. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get into that swimsuit. I'll somehow do it. But nowadays, I mean, everybody's perfect just the way they are. And if you want to lose weight, you should do it for yourself, not because anybody else is telling you. So that's very important. Not to get carried away with the society and what society thinks of you. So, especially for girls, I don't know how it is for guys. Amila, any takes on that?
I think it's all about redefining, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So this is pretty interesting. I think now Lilly Singh's character, even though a lot of people will say, she's very out there and we don't think that she's an introvert, I think that's a false judgment to be made.
Yeah.
If you're out there, you actually know sometimes, I could personally relate to her story, certain areas where I am in the public most of the time, but all I want sometimes is to just, after an event, just come home to closed doors, meaning I am an introvert.
Yeah,
But will
that's true.
anyone say that I'm an introvert? Hell no. Like, oh, she is an extrovert all the time, out and out. But that does not mean outgoing does not mean extrovert. People can be
Yeah.
introvert. So these are the types of personalities we need to identify, even within family and within friends. And just like she has said, if you have a skill, keep on, finding it more.
Yes.
Um, I would say, in the same line, adding Ashim Sani's thought to Lilly Singh right now, where
Okay.
I think it's all about, I would quote it as, your level of good enough is never good enough.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something I always say, like, your good enough is never good enough. You have to be better at it.
You have
So,
to, like, even she, when she was doing her videos and before going out there with the content and all, she used to like put in 14 hours of work every day just to get that perfect outcome, because a lot of people are looking at you. So
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, this is I have put my own talk show out, and I know how hard and how much work that actually takes. It's not about just creating a YouTube and being like, okay, my dream came true. No, it's a lot of
yeah.
work. So yeah, could relate at some point. Coming into Amila, let's talk about, why do you think, we know now Nick is so special in so different parts. We know he is special, but why do you think Nick is so special compared to any other person?
Yeah, even without the limbs, Nick is a crazy, funny, and ridiculous person. So he can do many things. For an example, I mean, he has done certain adventurous sports. For an example, he has done skydiving, he can swim, and he has done deep water diving, and he can surf. He's a musician. He can play musical instrument, and he's an actor. So that's why I said, like, when we compare, I felt sorry about myself because I am unable to do
Yeah.
anything. So it's actually it's not easy. For an example, when you don't
Yeah.
have the limbs, imagine how you are trying to swim, right? It's not
Yeah.
easy. So if you want to do the surfing, so you do the surfing, you balance using your hands, right? So but without anything, so Nick can do all those things, which means he has, I mean, practice 100 times like more than us, right?
Yeah.
So that's how he has become successful. So he wanted to prove a point as a motivational speaker. So he wanted to, I mean, prove that people can do those things. And also those are just not photo shoots. So there are many videos. He has done it very
Yeah.
nicely. And certain magazines, like there are certain articles that, because he has done it well. So that's why I say Nick is very special person, even without limbs. He's very specific. It's kind of a superhero. And in other hand, other thing is, like, he's a very kind person. He always try to bring a smile to people who are around him. So let me tell a few stories. So one day he was, I mean, trying to fly somewhere. So he and his partner is getting into the aircraft. Then at that time nobody is there. So he's requesting his partner to open that cabin and put himself inside. Right. So he put and throw him inside and close the cabin. The person who comes next and is not aware that someone is inside. So the moment that that person opened the door, he realized that someone is inside. So like suddenly he gets shocked, and then it brings a smile to that particular person's face. So he does that kind of funny things. And one day, like, he was going into the shopping mall with his friend. He's in the wheelchair, and he sees a dummy without limbs, just like him. So what he does is he asks his friend to move that dummy,
Yeah.
keep him there, right? So the people who are passing him, he makes certain expressions. So people suddenly realize that how can dummy make expressions? So they
Yeah.
get shocked. Then they realize that he's Nick. So even without the limbs, like, he's trying to make fun out of it. He's trying to bring a smile to the other people. And another story I can recall, one, he was going in the car. He was next to the driving seat. So he parks his car. One girl comes and parallel park his car. So when the girl look at the other side, the Nikki is in the driving seat. What he does is he rotates 360 in his seat. That
Oh
girl
my god.
gets shocked, right? When someone, how can a person rotate in his seat, right? So then later she realized that this person does not have legs. That's why, I mean, he was able to turn. So the likewise is a very special person. He's trying to bring a smile. He's a very funny person, even without the limbs. Like, he enjoys his life.
That's amazing. I think just like you say, he is a superhero, and I believe these are the real life superheroes we have to teach,
Yeah.
the kids, right? Without showing, Superman. I mean, as much as children enjoy that, the real life superheroes and the life stories out of them are things that the children, have to be taught. With that, we have actually come to the latter part of today's episode, and I would like to ask Nadia the one final question I have for you. That is, what is your favorite takeaway from this book in brief, and what kind of impact did this book have on you, Nadia?
Okay, so actually, I just have like a few points. Well, a couple of my favorites. I'll just be quick to share them with you. So it's basically happiness. So she talks about happiness, and she says, in order for you to be happy, appreciate and be grateful for the things we already have. So as humans, we actually forget about it. We are so used to taking things for granted that we get lost in complaining and whining all of the time, right? And And we just keep talking about all the negative things, forgetting that we have a family, we have a roof above our heads, we have a good education, we have food to eat, when most of the people don't even have the simple luxuries. There are people out there who can't even, who do not have access to a clean glass of water.
That's right.
So we just have to be, instead of complaining all the time, just be grateful for what you have. And then she gives examples also. For example, um, if you're driving in the traffic, or you have to go somewhere and your car breaks down, so what if it breaks down? Just be happy that, okay, I will fix this car tomorrow, right? At least I have a car to go to places when most people
Exactly.
don't, you
Yeah.
know so she says, instead of like dwelling in that negative mindset, deviate that thought, instead of saying, oh my god, crap, my car broke, or uh, if for example, if you're in school and you're having a hard time, at least say, okay, you know what, I should be lucky that I'm having an education. I'll pass through this so that I can pass my exam and get into a good college, instead of like dwelling all the time, you know. And then she always says, rewire and rethink
Hmm.
and practice gratitude for
Yeah.
whatever you have.
Mhm.
And don't be one of those basic humans and just basically, we all have a level of awesomeness in us, right? So we should live our lives to the maximum and to the potential. So to conclude this, I'm gonna say a few things. So basically, so a boss, BOSS, means a person who actually breaks business deals and it's always about business. However, a bouse, defined by Lilly Singh, um, is basically where she says everybody has the right and has the job to be nice, to be compassionate towards people, and regardless of race and gender. All it takes is for us is to be nice and kind, basically, at the end of the day. So practice that. With that, it's a wrap on my end.
Thank you so much, Nadia. I think that was pretty interesting conversation
Yes.
with you. And on a final note, I would like to ask Amila one final question. That is, what did you learn from this book, and what is your message for the audience?
Yeah. Let me read out a few quotes from his book.
Sure, sure.
You can either be angry for what you don't have or thankful for what you have. In Nick's case, he didn't have limbs, but as I told you, he had a small part of the leg, it called chicken leg. So he used that to, do his most of the work. Other one, if you need a friend, become someone else. So when Nick was young, he didn't have any friends, so everyone was making out of joke. But now he started helping so many people, and he has become one of the people, like a person who gets love from all the others. What we need to remember is that life is not a pass and fail test, and it's a trial and error process. So Nick simply says, don't take it don't make it very complicated. Just do it. It's not a test, pass or fail test. Just try. Either you could be pass. It could be a trial. You will become end up doing an error. So don't take it very seriously. There are two types of risk in your life: the danger of trying and danger of not trying. This is one of the beautiful quote: danger of trying and danger of not trying. For an example, in this session, so I can wait without doing it. Then what happens is I'm still fail. So I can just give it a try and then fail, right? What's the best? So when you give it a
At
try
least you
and
try.
fail, at least you have some sort of experience. So that's why Nick says, so there are a lot of stories in this book. And other thing, if I had X, I would be happy syndrome. It's a mass delusion. What he says is, most of the time we think that if you get this, if you get the money, the home, the salary, the increment, we will be happy. But we are not happy with the things what we have at the moment. If you are not happy with the things what we have at the moment, even if you get more, still you will not be happy. So the material things, if you go behind too much of material things, right, you will not get the happiness. Finding purpose is the first important step to living life without limits. So Nick found his life purpose. So he started helping others to likewise all of us find life purpose.
Thank you so much, Amila, for bringing the book also to a closure today. I think if we had more time, we could have just gone, go on and on about the two books and talk a lot more. But time is a restriction, and we all value time. So thank you so much, Nadia and Amila, for joining with us. And before I say, conclude the session, I would like to share now, two things I grabbed and got stuck in my mind is from Lilly Singh. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. That's one thing. And the other one is what Amila started with. Don't feel sorry for the disabled. I think you should feel sorry for yourself for not even trying that much. At least they're trying,
Yeah.
surviving or trying. There's something to do with something. And on a final note, Amila also mentioned the fact that you can either be angry about what you don't have or be happy and grateful to what you already have. I think that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, with that, we are bringing the episode of Flipside Corporate Edition webinar series, this episode to a closure. Thank you so much, Nadia, and thank you so much, Amila, for joining
Thank you
with
for
us.
having us.
And
Thank you.
my pleasure. The conversation was great, and I hope both of you also enjoyed.
Yes,
Definitely.
definitely.
So, for someone who hasn't read the two books in full, I think I am, I know, in part, you all imparted the wealth of knowledge to me. You're passed on, and that's exactly what we try to do from such episodes. We are passing on the knowledge, and we're sharing it and bringing our perspective and the individual perspective to the table, and taking this a long way. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we shared the stories, lessons from two outstanding books: How to Be a Bawse, A Guide to Conquering Life by Lilly Singh, and Life Without Limits, Inspiration for a Ridiculously Good Life by Nick Vujicic. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining with us. We shall see you soon with another episode of the Flip Side Corporate Webinar Series, the Corporate Edition, pardon, organized by Pickabook Sri Lanka. And as you know, Pickabook Sri Lanka, the vision is to change participants' sense of self through the wonders of literature, and they inspire change. And I think from this episode too, we were able to inspire change. So thank you so much once again to the presenters. And my name is Ashin Sunivera Singha. Good night. Have a safe, have a good meal, have a good dinner, and enjoy. This is a good weekend. So bye bye. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Bye.